That's fucking them days. Them days. Them days we didn't get a break. Go on, Jan. Go on, get a drink. Bob.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of the ROKER RAPPORT podcast in association with Sunderland Community Street Kitchen. I'm Bomber. Joining me is Malc, and we have just witnessed, if there ever is a good 0-0, this probably isn't it in terms of the points that we need on the board. But Malc, it wasn't that bad a performance. What are your overall thoughts, having literally just come off from the final whistle?
Agreed, mate. Another one of them where we did everything but score, really. You know, some positive play. It looked like we should have been the home side. They were clearly hoping to just squeeze a point out of it and maybe hit us on the break. Performance-wise, apart from the odd couple of players who I think we should potentially started with different personnel, I thought it was a good performance. The trade-off of that is we're running out of games and we're dropping points. So a good performance without winning isn't really enough as the games get lesser and lesser. We've still got a handful left. But yeah, that's the biggest concern, really.
Yeah, I think that's been the point that I've been trying to make for the last few weeks. It's about points on the board, not necessarily performances. You know, I'd have taken us playing terribly and coming away with a 1-0 win than what we actually ended up seeing, albeit it was quite pleasing. I'd say it was probably our best performance that we've seen in weeks. Maybe the Wigan game can compete with that, but frustratingly, unlike Wigan, we had nothing to show for it, and it does really feel like 2 points dropped. You mentioned about the starting lineup, Malc, so I'll just go into that. So basically, the two players who effectively saved our season against Crewe have been rightly rewarded with starts this week. So Dan Neil coming in to replace Jay Matete in midfield, and Jermaine Defoe made way for Patrick Roberts, who played the role of coming in to support Ross Stewart. So both guys, I think, Malc, completely deserving of their starts and being recalled back into the starting lineups. But was it for the right people?
No. having Matete on the bench when Evans is both starting and captain, I just don't understand it. I mean, I'm not having a go unduly. You know, I know he had a couple of efforts today. Today was probably one of his better games. But Dan Neil was getting bullied off the ball in the middle of the park, and Evans was doing nothing about it. You know, that was my biggest gripe today. There were a lot of opportunities that were created through the width and through the middle that we did feed through the wide men and through Dan Neil. But I just don't understand why Evans continues to wear the armband and continues to start in the side. You know, Matete, since he came in from Fleetwood, I think it was, wasn't it? He's been an absolute revelation. How Alex Neil told Matete he's being dropped when over those games most recently, even when we've been pretty mediocre, he's been pretty bloody awesome. I don't know how that conversation will have went down. So I think Evans has to be rested, shall we say. Apart from that, you know, I think I agreed with the situation. I'd like Jermaine to be a super sub, and I'd like him to bloody well score, rather than just being some kind of PR stunt signing, which I'm getting more and more worried he is every week. But yeah, that's the one big difference for me. The rest of the team deserve to start, and both, you know, Roberts and Neil had some good moments in the match that showed that, you know, they really added some value.
Yeah, definitely. It was a strange one when I saw that Matete was on the bench, because at first I was like, oh, maybe he's taking him out because of the yellow card situation. But then I also read that actually that's null and void now, because we've passed a certain point of the season, so that isn't a worry. And then I thought maybe he's got a knock, but then I again thought, well, if he's got a knock, why on earth is he even on the bench? So yeah, it was a strange one. I mean, in the end, it wasn't really a game where we desperately needed Jay Matete, but you know, when you want to win football matches, you play the best players that are available to you, and it stands to reason that he's been our best player. There's no doubt about it. For the last 6 weeks or so, he's been our best player. So it'll be interesting to see why he was left out today. But that was the team that Alex Neil went with, and like I said, it was pretty much our best performance under him, I would say, bar 10 minutes. In the middle of the first half, you know, we dominated Lincoln pretty much start to finish. They couldn't really get out their half. You know, on another day, we'd probably go in at half time a couple of goals up, Matt, wouldn't we?
We would, mate, yeah. I mean, the first half was some lovely football. You know, Roberts was, you know, really, really having a go at them and very much turning them round. And You know, Gooch had a decent start. I think he faded as the game went through. Clark hit the outside of the post. He hit another lovely volley about half an hour in. That flashed past the post. You could have had three keepers and they wouldn't have stopped it. It hit it so hard. And, you know, it was crosses cleared, and the first half was very, very encouraging. But even in the first half, it had that feeling where Lincoln were just there to try and get a point out of it. I know that they're flirting with the wrong end of the table, but playing at home, especially after the way that they played up at the Stadium of Light, and you know, it's a little bit disappointing that they didn't at least have a bit of a pop. But yeah, the first half was very, very encouraging.
Yeah, because if you listen to Chris's preview, the guy who was previewing for Lincoln made the argument that Lincoln need these 3 points more than perhaps we did. And I don't know if it was just that we stopped them playing or they just weren't interested in playing. But like I said, we pretty much dominated that entire first half. And it was pretty much more of the same for the second half as well. We had chance after chance. I think Dan Neal had one that he blazed over the bar. Even Corry Evans was getting in on the action. You know, he hit the post and with one, or clipped the post and forced Jordan Wright into a good save, the Lincoln keeper, with another. Jermaine Defoe found himself in a bit of space, turned his man, but just completely dragged his shot. It looked like he snatched it a little bit, obviously a bit desperate to get that first goal back at the club. And yeah, it could have been so very, very different. But as it happens, it was a 0-0. And, you know, Lincoln are going to be much more happy with that point than we are, aren't they?
I think they're possibly going to be happy. I mean, let's be honest, although we had the lion's share of possession, we were way more creative. You know, we hit the woodwork a couple of times. We forced an absolute miracle save out of their goalkeeper in the second half. How that header from Stewart didn't go in, I have no idea. That was, to be fair to the goalkeeper, that was a top shelf save for a League One goalie. You know, just the same, to be fair, as Pato's, that he managed to claw it at the other end late on. You know, we could have lost that 1-0, which I suppose is one of those situations that you have to be a little bit grateful for. But the other thing that disappointed me was yet again another League One ref that didn't have a pair of balls. You know, we could have easily had a couple of penalties in that game. Ross Stewart, you know, he might have been in the Olympic judo final, you know, the way people were grabbing his strip and throwing him over their shoulder onto the ground, and he gave absolutely nothing. I know, again, they were at home. I don't think that should make any difference. There was way too many poor decisions, and it was frustrating the players a little bit. So yeah, I mean, with the combination of a lack of that clinical edge in the final third and in the box, a bit of good goalkeeping. I thought their right back had a good game against young Jack Clark. You know, he tried to bamboozle him and get round him a few times, and he was very strong and did well, to be fair. Just take note of that, Alex Neil, good right back at Lincoln City for if we need one in the future.
I think that's the guy who's on loan from Arsenal, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I think he's a youngster on loan, yeah. But yeah, it's just one of them where good performance, but as we said at the start of the chat, good performances are starting to not be good enough unless we convert them into 3 points. And, you know, we're really lucky to still be in the playoffs. I just had a look at the table before we came on air, and we're still in 6th. One of the two teams below us has got a game in hand, but they're a point behind. It's any one of 3 teams from us and the 2 teams below us now. I think that's Sheffield Wednesday, and we're going to get that final playoff berth if everything stays more or less how it is at the moment. So yeah, it was a disappointing end result, but that referee really wound me up. I'm just fed up with League One referees. Really am.
Yeah. It was. I think I counted 3 penalty shouts: 2 for Ross Stewart, 1 for Patrick Roberts. I think Roberts' one was probably a bit soft. I thought he could probably stay up, and I was a bit frustrated that he didn't, because it looked like he already got the wrong side of, or the right side from his point of view, from the man. But the 2 ones for Ross Stewart, I think at least one of those needs to be given, and it seems to always be him. Any of the penalties that we've had, I can't remember. There probably has been a couple, but I can't remember Ross Stewart being brought down in the box and being awarded a penalty. All I can think of when I try and remember back is penalties that he should have had that hasn't been given. So I don't know what the League One referee's agenda is against Ross Stewart, but he doesn't seem to be given anything in and around the box, really. And it is frustrating. I think it was poor from the referee, but you know, it's what we've come to expect now, really. You know, decent refereeing performances seem few and far between, don't they?
Yeah, I agree. I suppose the only other thing to touch on in the second half is the substitutions. Mm-hmm. We brought on Defoe and Dejaku on about 74 minutes for Dan Neil and young Clark. I don't think Dejaku did anything. And, Defoe had a couple of sniffs, but we've got to be putting him in a place where he can just do the job. And we were talking off air before, and I think we both believe, that one where Defoe snapped it across the goal, he just pulled it a bit, and he's not striking the ball as well as he used to, probably with a lack of kind of match practice and stuff like that. So I think the substitutions could have been done earlier, and I've no idea why the final substitution was Doyle coming on for Gooch. I mean, if you're going to do that, do it earlier in the game, so at least you can change the formation and have something more effective from it, because he gave him 5 minutes.
Yeah, I think it was formation wise and tactical, but like you're saying, 5 minutes before the end is a little bit too little too late. So yeah, it was a bit of a strange one to bring him on. So there we have it. I mean, we sound a bit doom and gloomy because it's a 0-0 draw and it seems like 2 points dropped, but I'd want to kind of, there's a couple of things I want to finish on which are positive, because there were some very, very positive performances out there today. Patrick Roberts being the obvious one. His attacking prowess and his drive with the ball and cutting inside caused endless amounts of problems for Lincoln. I think him and I would also say Dennis Cirkin, to be fair. I think Patrick Roberts will take the praise for what praise you can get from a 0-0 draw, but Patrick Roberts will take that praise and take those headlines, so to speak. But Dennis Cirkin, I thought, was absolutely fantastic for 90 minutes today. Couldn't fault him at all. Considering the position he was playing in, he was good going forward. He gave us options. All this kind of stuff that you'd want to see from him, playing as a fullback or a wing back, and he was doing it from left centre half. So yeah, Roberts and Cirkin for me, head and shoulders above everybody else. Is there anybody else you think I've missed there, Malc?
No, I agree. I think Cirkin definitely deserves an honourable mention. I suppose the only other person I would touch upon would be Patterson. He saved our arses with that save from that kind of 6-yard out header that he somehow managed to claw out from under the bar, and then somebody hoofed it clear, thankfully, because it just had a written shitty 1-0 all over it, as we started to approach that last 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah. And it's very easy when you've had nothing to do for pretty much the whole match, goalkeeping-wise, just to switch off and end up with an issue. So he did really well with that point-blank save. The rest of the team, I think it was a good grafting performance across the park. Alex Neil said in the Unfiltered podcast from the club website that he doesn't care what the performances look like, we just want the 3 points. But that was the other way around. As we saw at Charlton, the performance was good, but we didn't get the 3 points. So something's got to be done to fix that, or we're going to run out of games and drift down to 7th, 8th. But a good performance all round, and some very strong performances from a few of the lads. So we should have some positivity, I agree.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's a strange one, isn't it? Like, we put in good performances, get nothing from it, and we put out crap and seem to get the wins. I'm with you, and I'm with Alex Neil, that for these remaining games, it doesn't really matter how we perform. We just need the points on the board. For me, I've said it a number of times, I'll care about how we play football once we're back in the Championship. Until then, just by hook or by crook, get those 3 points on the board and get us out of this bloody league. Yeah,
I agree.
So we'll leave that there for the boys to fully digest and review a bit later on this weekend or early next week. But from me and from Malc, we'll speak to you all again soon. Thanks for listening.
Cheers, guys.
Where am I going? I don't know. Where am I heading? I ain't certain. All I know is I am on my way.